Welcome back to Slick Talk. I'm your host, Blackstone Joe. Today I'm joined by colleague. I guess today we're going to call you co-host.
Yeah,
Ben.
co-host works.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Joe. Always a pleasure.
Sprinkled a little bit of clout at the beginning of that episode just for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you checked out, I'm speaking to Ben and the listeners here. You checked out the Ryan episode.
I certainly did.
And I opened that one up talking about music, what he would take with him in the apocalypse, his last trip around the sun. I didn't say this in that episode, but it's true. I want my credit.
Okay.
I correctly guessed the Rolling Stones.
You did, because we talked about this before you recorded that episode and asked me what my guess would be. And I incorrectly guessed John Prine just because of how often he wears that t-shirt.
Multiple shirts. He's got the Singing Rain Man, or the Singing Mailman shirt, because he was a mailman before he was a star. John
I'm learning
Prine.
all kinds of things today already.
Not Ryan Stark, not president of Blackstone Laboratories. Although that wouldn't be unusual, I guess, at some point in his history. So I just wanted my credit. And on that note, we're going to hit you with a curveball, which was, you can tell me whatever it is. What's the last album you listened to, or the last artist? Let's do the last artist, because we just discussed what Ryan's favorite artist was. In fact, I'm so pleased that I predicted it. You can pull out the phone, do whatever you need to do.
I got to remind myself, because I know I listened to something. I haven't listened to any music yet today, but I know I was listening to some tunes last night, so let's see.
Or you can even go with what you're playing when you're writing your last report.
Oh, when I was writing my last report, I think I was listening to... Oh, I know what I was listening to. I was listening to the Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Hey, we love an orchestra every now and again.
Yeah.
I've been digging through Hans Zimmer soundtracks lately.
Okay.
But the last band I played... we've never talked about this group. Red House Painters.
Oh, I love the Red House Painters.
That was really hitting.
Ocean Beach. That's my Red House Painters album.
I stumbled upon them really recently. So I was in Indianapolis and went to the General American Donut Company, close to downtown. Well, it is downtown. Close to Sun King Brewery. Because my wife was a vendor at a big, they had 50 different vendors, and they were, vintage clothing scavengers type places. And then you have my wife, who's the fiber artist, who's selling a bunch of handmade stuff. And I had to stop by a donut shop, and this place was incredible. This is my plug for General American Donut Company. If you're in Indianapolis and don't know what it is, it's incredible. So it's very warehouse type setup. You walk in, there's a projector playing cartoons off a brick wall. And then there's just the essentials for what they need to make donuts and have a little bit of seating. It's incredible. And they're playing Red House Painters. And I was like, well, that's a mood. So I'm going to listen to that now. So that was what I was playing.
You got to be in a healthy state of mind to listen to Red House Painters, though.
It's very personal music.
Yeah, very, very much.
It's sad boy extraordinaire. So any episode with Ben, I feel like if y'all are repeat listeners, we're going to have a little diatribe about music. We got it out of the way early for you. If you're here for the data, you're going to wait a little bit longer because our On the Money segment is coming. That's towards the end of the episode. In the middle, though, we have Unit IDs we love. So before we get into the unit IDs that we love, Ben, why don't you give us a little definition for the people who may not know, what is a unit ID in the universe of Blackstone?
So basically the unit ID is whatever name people want to give to their engine that they're sending in a sample from, or transmission, or whatever, most often engine. So it's, whatever you want to call it.
So a lot of people, and I feel for them, maybe not a lot, but I see it more than I guess you would think. VIN numbers are chosen for these IDs. This is kind of an awareness show. we're raising awareness that you don't have to put that VIN number if you don't want to.
No, I mean, you're more than welcome to, but not required at all.
Some people assume that we track vehicles by VIN number. I mean, we could, but that would be asking everyone to put their VIN number each time, and that's kind of impractical. We track aircraft by tail number. So this Unit ID episode, don't come away from this thinking, oh, I'm going to start like naming my aircraft Scooby-Doo.
Roy.
Don't do that, because we need those N numbers. But we're talking about anything but aircraft, because truly, there are no rules beyond aircraft.
Right.
So, we've defined a Unit ID. It's whatever you want to call it. And this is not to say that you're wrong if you're literal, right? Because, Ben, usually the Unit IDs are the year and the model.
Right. You're never wrong doing that. And it is very clear and straightforward. We see a Unit ID that says 14 RAM. We know exactly what we're looking at there.
So, it's fine to do. But this episode is called Unit IDs We Love. And I can't say I have a great deal of affection for just your standard issue, year, and model. Nothing wrong with that. But we want to applaud the people who are putting themselves out there. They have the personality. They have the nickname. They have a story that they want to convey with the Unit ID they choose. So Ben and I have compiled a list. It's not definitive because we're ever expanding with Blackstone. There's always another Unit ID to find. There's always a new customer coming along the way. We're going to find more of these. And honestly, we could, if we wanted, go for hours and hours pulling out interesting IDs. So these are just a few that we want to talk about today. If you're one of those people who thinks that you might have an even more memorable one that just hasn't popped up on the show yet, well, let us know. We'll feature you in another segment. But Ben, today we each have a list. We're going to start going down these lists. Why don't you give us your first Unit ID that you love?
Okay, the first one that I want to talk about it's from a 2004 Land Rover with the Unit ID Disco Volante, which I like for a couple of reasons. First, it's a fun name. And I have since learned that Disco Volante is Italian for flying saucer. So, hey, we're all learning. But the reason that one sticks out to me in particular is it's also the name of an album by the group Mr. Bungle, which maybe not a whole lot of people know Mr. Bungle, but probably a whole lot of people know the band Faith No More. And it's the lead singer from Faith No More, Mike Patton's other main band. And aside from the name, the reason it really stuck out to me is when I saw this one come across my desk, I agonized with myself for probably a good 5 minutes on whether or not I should throw a Mr. Bungle reference into the report because, stood to reason that this person might be a fan, but at the same time, maybe not. And this is how my nerd brain works, is these are the kinds of things that I agonize over. I mean, above and beyond actually, trying to do my job.
Understandable. And yeah, the references are tricky. You want to use them whenever you can, but we are speculating to some degree what amount of jive we can put down that will be picked up.
Right. And some unit IDs are much more clearly a reference to something than others. If somebody, names their engine Jarrell, chances are you can throw a Superman reference in there and it's gonna be fine. But something like that, it's a little more nebulous.
We're gonna stay in outer space because my first one is Space Wagon, belonging to a 1998 Volvo V70R. Space Wagon is, well, it's a special wagon because this one was sitting and the owner was concerned about how it was going to look. It looked fantastic. And actually, I think going to the results here, we looked at very low wear, oil that held up fine, and I believe the owner note it had been sitting for at least 4 years.
And see, that's also another example of calendar time not really being a factor in newer engines like that.
It's impressive. impressive set of results, and just, goes to show that you can put that calendar time aside, focus on mileage instead. Shout out to Space Wagon, patrolling the galaxy for all of us. Ben, what's your next unit ID?
My next one is a 2020 Silverado named Maximus, which, I mean, you gotta love because of the movie Gladiator, which is I know it won Oscar for Best Picture, but is an objectively terrible movie, except for the fight scenes.
I quarrel with you, sir.
And see, that's the level of dialogue that's in that movie.
Now, all right, I was gonna retort, but all my retorts have nothing to do with the screenplay.
Well, no, that's why when you watch Gladiator, you watch it in what my brother and I have come to describe as the Gladiator version of watching a movie, where you skip 40% of it and you just watch the fight scenes, because that's the only reason that you watch that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the remainder is just Joaquin Phoenix's character acting creepy and, some very elementary level Roman politics. Okay, but
yeah,
fine. You're coming for my childhood.
Yeah, one of the reasons though that I do like this one in particular is it always gives me a chuckle because it reminds me of when my cousin and his wife were having their first child. My cousin went around the entire time his wife was pregnant telling everybody he was going to name his son Maximus Thor, and that clearly didn't happen. I think the wife put the kibosh on that, but every time I see the word Maximus, I always think of my cousin Wes proudly announcing that Maximus Thor is coming.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, I believe my wife's cousin said they were going to name their daughter Buffalo Tammy.
Ooh.
And that's just turned out to be their nickname for the baby until the baby popped out. And then they had their real name, but Buffalo Tammy was definitely a memorable placeholder. Well,
so it wound up being Buffalo Betty then, is what you're saying.
I think.
Okay.
So, we'll confirm. So the proverbial stolen thunder just occurred because I had a Maximus as well.
Hey, great minds.
This one's a little more on the nose because it belonged to a 3.0 Duramax.
Ah.
So, they're playing off of the engine model, and all well and good there. I mean, I guess for us, if it's not something obvious like that, it's fun just to wonder where it came from. Like, is Gladiator one of your favorite movies? Is this a nickname that you came up with for some other reason?
Right.
You can let us know, or we can wonder. This is one where it's fairly obvious. Sometimes we have to know the story behind them, though. And on that note, I just want to pivot to another one. One of the writers on staff, you all have met her if you listen to the Up in the Air episode with Amanda. There's a Saturn in her file. I don't know if you've seen this one.
I have not seen this one.
It's nicknamed Cow Killer.
I have heard the story behind
You've heard?
Cow Killer. I have not seen it in Amanda's file, but she has told me the story of Cow Killer. I don't remember all of the details other than what you can infer from the ID name, but
yeah, that Saturn has a cow to its name. Totally accidental here, nothing on purpose. But yeah, a cow wandered into the road apparently, and this Saturn won. So, people that don't view the Saturn as a particularly sturdy vehicle, you're wrong.
Yeah, clearly.
The Saturn faced a cow and won.
Yeah. I wish my Saturn would have been that hardy when I got T-boned in it. It might still be on the road today.
Ooh, on the passenger side, right?
Oh, no, brother. Right on the driver's side. Yeah. I was driving. This was several years ago now. I was driving. Some guy ran a red light, T-boned me. Thankfully, he hit me right in the driver's side wheel well, but shot me up about, I want to say, 30 yards away from where I was when he hit me, because I was going full speed. He was going full speed. It was bad. It was very not good.
And was this in Fort Wayne?
Yeah. This was on the corner of Lafayette and Jefferson. You know how it has that big building right up by the curb there? So I didn't see this guy coming, and I believe I found out later he was texting while driving. Don't text and drive, people. Plowed right into me. It was ugly.
Yeah. Every accident I've been in has just been dumb. Like, none of them have been exciting or memorable or like true risk of injury. It's just been like, yeah, someone forgot to brake and they like, hit my bumper pretty hard. Or like the best one I talked about on this show is like, I was at a stop sign. There's a car in front of me. The car starts to turn and then they're like, oh, I don't want to turn here. So they threw it in reverse and just reversed into me. So, and then,
What?
and then I'll regale you and the listeners with the best detail about that story. When the police came, she said, she instantly pivoted to, it's not my fault. And then goes, I mean, you can see how close he was to me. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. But yeah, if you hit somebody, chances are you got close to him.
Yeah. One would say.
Moving on, though, because that vehicle, it's like I said, every accident I've had, the vehicle ended up being okay. Mostly. Okay. Next unit ID. Is it your turn?
I think so. It is my turn.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is my turn. Okay, I'm going to go for a twofer here because in order to fully appreciate either of them, they really work together. So I was looking through the list of units for one of our marine customers, and I think I was double checking an engine type or something like that, and I ran into two ships that just seemed to go really, really well together. The first one is a ship called the Lo and Behold, which you know when you think of Lo and Behold, to me the image that comes to my mind is this this ship appearing over the horizon, and there's billowing smoke coming out of the water. I don't know why billowing smoke would be coming out of the water, but it's my imagination, so I can do what I want. And which is great to me. But then the next unit under that one was the ship Oh Well. So we've got Lo and Behold, and then Oh Well. So, the unit IDs giveth, and the unit IDs taketh away.
Some of the best definitely belong to those marine accounts because, again, as with everything else, you'll run into people just listing the vessel and the year, but you do come across those really, really great names. You're really showing me up on this one because my next... Well, no, I have some quality here. I
believe you do.
Next up, we will discuss Iron Pony.
Oh, I like Iron Pony.
This one belonging to a Honda VFR 1200. I love it because it reminds me of how, like, when trains first came about, natives would refer to them as the Iron Horse.
Yeah.
And so it gives me those vibes. It gives me, like, some Pony Express vibes.
And some Easy Rider vibes.
Yes. And I just rewatched that movie not that long ago.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Dennis Hopper was a weird guy.
Yes.
Wait, is he alive? I think he's
No, he passed away, I want to say about 10 years ago.
Okay, because that's like major Always Sunny vibes, that episode where they are honoring Wade Boggs and they're like, rest in peace, Wade. And he's like, Wade Boggs is very much alive. And I was like, okay, hold on. So rest in peace, Dennis Hopper. So Easy Rider, recently rewatched it. They had a couple of Iron Ponies themselves, except they weren't Hondas. They were definitely not Hondas. Can you picture Easy Rider with Hondas?
No, I believe they were Harleys.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to make that movie. But I love those vibes. I just want to see a commercial for the Iron Pony where, it's like a cowboy with a messenger bag. And he's like desperately trying to deliver a message on time. And he makes it in the nick of time and then rides off into the sunset. And then Iron Pony.
See, where my mind goes with that is a motorcycle with a giant steel horse head mounted to the front of it. Because that's where my ridiculous brain goes.
Anything can happen. in the nebulous world of oil analysis. Yeah, Iron Pony. Hope that engine. I mean, I believe, we were looking at the data. I think that engine's doing well. Also, we don't have any stinkers, at least on my list. Nothing that looks like it. I'm not going to call out Unit ID from something that's clearly struggling, has a serious problem. I don't want to rub salt in the wound. This is a list of all stars.
We're not here to put anybody on blast.
So, Ben, what else do you have on your phenomenal list?
I have one that just sort of tickled me a little bit. It's from a 2019 Ranger with the unit ID Witcher 3. Now, I looked through this customer's other units, and there is no Witcher 1 or Witcher 2.
Did they have other stuff, though?
They had one other vehicle. I don't remember what it was, but it was not in any way related to this. So all I could think of with this one is they must be a big fan of the video game Witcher 3.
I was just trying to think of possibilities. So there's a Netflix TV show right now called The Witcher.
Yeah, which is based on the video game.
Okay, so there's not a novel. There's just a video game?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I've never seen the show, nor have I played the video game. I only know that is a thing because of my nephew, who is into video games.
Yeah.
But I saw that and thought, maybe my next vehicle is going to be called Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Yeah, I mean, you can't name it The Godfather Part 3. No one likes Part 3.
No.
But if it's something that people don't know the third one or they love the third one, then you can do that.
Yeah.
Next up, I have something that, we'd like to know the stories behind a lot of these. Sissy Truck. This will be a 2003 F-250 powered by a 6.0 Power Stroke. Powerful engine. Big truck.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently it's a sissy truck.
Apparently. Well, maybe it's one of those, reverse nicknames, how you call a big guy tiny.
Yeah. It's irony of a sort that we might not know.
Yeah.
Everything that goes behind it. And sometimes I'm not assuming this is one of those situations, but sometimes people will sample stuff that they don't like. Like, how often have you seen, samples come in and the customer will note, I hate this car, but I need to see how long it will last. Or this car is a lemon. I know it's a lemon. Please just tell me how bad it is.
Oh, yeah. I've had so many follow-up emails from engines that, a lot of them, even look pretty good in testing. And then I would get follow-up emails from people just talking trash about their own vehicle.
Because they wanted that sample to justify getting rid of it. And then we find, this engine's doing well. And they're like, really?
Yeah.
Dang it.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I can totally get behind because I talk smack about my own vehicle constantly.
Yeah, sometimes the good news doesn't really hit like good news when we send it along. We'll send that report along and we'll have glowing things to say. We'll wish it was our engine and then the owner doesn't. But that's the thing about vehicles. There's so much more than just an engine. So you can hate the way it looks. You can hate the interior. Maybe the radio's busted. Maybe the AC went out and everything else sucks. But the engine's doing well.
Yeah.
So
your internals are solid.
There's so much more. So what else do you have, Ben?
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the simple yet highly effective classic Black Death, which is a 97 Camaro, aptly named. And also, that one also speaks to me because I love things spooky and macabre. And I've been interested in the Black Death / bubonic plague for a very long time because
it's historical.
It's historical. And I've recently learned that for as much as we have blamed the spread of the bubonic plague on rats, there is actually ample evidence that has come to life that it was, in fact, the toboggan marmot rather than rats who, at least initially, helped to spread the Black Death and bring it to Europe.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the last time somebody will say nice marmot, right?
That's what I was gonna say. It makes me fear a lot more for Jeff Bridges' safety in that scene in Big Lebowski where they toss it in the bathtub and then he's in danger, and I'm like, well, could have been spreading the plague,
right?
Man, I never liked marmots. Sorry, this show just if you're listening to it and you own a marmot, you caught a stray, and I didn't see it coming myself. So next up, I have Never Satisfied, which is, I love it. That's an album title. That's a song title.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a way of life.
Many things that I like. So Never Satisfied belongs to a tractor puller.
Oh.
And interesting thing about this, it's one that's running leaded fuel.
Like one that is actually used in tractor pulls?
I believe so, and that's awesome.
That is awesome.
The reason I mentioned leaded fuel, I guess this is a PSA, I'm glad that they mentioned it. Because it was an instance where, if you don't have all the details, you're in that gray area where you have to decide, am I looking at a severe bearing problem or am I looking at harmless blow-by? And good customer here, they know the fuel type, we knew where it was coming from. But yeah, Never Satisfied, excellent. It feels like, what was it? Who's the front man of Poison?
Bret Michaels.
Yeah. Feels like a very Bret Michaels type of moniker.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Shout out to Rock of Love seasons 1 and 2 on VH1.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have anything else on your list?
I do. I have a 2002 Triumph called the Green Tiger.
Solid.
Solid, like right? Right. That in itself is just a solid name. And as I'm sure has become clear to listeners by now, I chose a lot of my unit IDs based on personal connotations and the way they spoke to me. And, Green Tiger is in itself an excellent unit ID, but it also reminds me of the green Battle Cat from He-Man from back in the day, which was basically just a toy tiger that they painted green.
PSA, do not paint your pets.
No, please don't. You might get some visitors for that one.
On the subject of animals, one of my favorite ones, Ranch Kitty. This is belonging to a Chevy Tahoe powered by a GM 6.2. So, when you're out on the ranch, letting the engine idle for exorbitant amounts of time, maybe you got some heavy loads of whatever you're hauling, you might think that you'll have some less than ideal results. In this case, whatever the Ranch Kitty was asked to do, that use fit the engine like a glove. Truly a quiet report with almost no metal. Everything coming up aces. And this isn't true of every engine, but sometimes they do what they're made to do and they look perfect doing it.
One would hope.
Sometimes you get a vehicle that you expect certain things from. It doesn't quite shine.
Mm-hmm.
This is one where it definitely was proving itself capable of exactly what the advertisement said that it was supposed to do.
Purring like a kitty.
Indeed.
Speaking of kitties, and that is not even made up. My next one, and I believe this is my last one, is it is a 2014 Eastern 35 named Asherah.
Oh, you're gonna say Asheroth.
No,
not that.
No, Asherah, which is the name of some mythological god. I'm not sure of the details, but more importantly, for my purposes, the way I like it, or the reason I like it so much, is it's also the name of one of my best friend's kitty cats. Shout out to Bryce and his little kitty. And I don't know, Bryce, if you're listening to this right now, you're a madman, and And I love you. This guy who owns this kitty, Asherah, is currently on a bicycle trip from Philadelphia to Chicago.
It seems harrowing.
I know.
Next up, belonging to a 2010 GMC Sierra Denali. We're dealing in the upper trim levels here.
Ooh.
Dark Knight, spelled exactly as the film.
Solid.
And what's more, this is a motor with upwards of 200K, wearing like a champ.
Nice.
We don't have any Hall of Famer motors here, I don't think, in terms of how many miles are on them. But it's fun to find out what people's expectations are for certain amounts of mileage versus what things actually look like.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really not unusual, especially with like a diesel, to see. I mean, I once heard a remark, about a diesel with around 200K on it, where I think this was Ryan who said, well, that's just getting started.
Yeah.
And for a diesel, that really can be true.
Yeah. And especially those big diesels, man, some of those will run for hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. I mean, think about how many 7.3 Power Strokes, which haven't been made in almost 20 years, and we're still seeing samples from them every single day.
Yeah. And then you get into the ones that are powering like Freightliners, and that's when you start getting into some cases into the millions.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, you might have an in-frame rebuild here or there, but impressive numbers all around. And now we have another On the Money segment. On the Money segments are where we pick out reports where we identified what looks to be a particular issue, and then not only did we mention what it looked like, we received confirmation in terms of what the customer was finding on their end. They were able to confer back and forth with us. Yes, I'm seeing the same indicators of this issue. Your analysis helped confirm it. Something along those lines is usually how this goes. We provide our analysis, they get back with us, and then our feedback along with what they're noticing on their end operationally combines to help them solve a problem as quickly as possible, catching small problems before they turn into big ones. So, Ben, this was an aircraft sample, and I believe we both have the data handy here. So this one came from an IO 550N. You can see we have history on this engine.
We do.
A, we love that.
Mm-hmm.
B, you can see a couple noticeable changes, a couple of highlights. So why don't you just talk about the elements that we have highlighted and what that drew our attention to?
So, just going down the list of elements we test for, the first one that's highlighted is aluminum. Now, aluminum in a especially in a Continental engine, can have a few different sources. It can come from the pistons. It can come from the piston pin plugs. Sometimes aluminum can come from the case itself if there's some case fretting. So that's the first one that shows up. And the second one, a little bit farther down the list, there is nickel. Typically, in an engine that has factory steel cylinders, nickel is going to come from the exhaust valve guides, especially in a Continental.
Yeah, nickel is the first area that caught my attention here because in these bigger Continentals, it's just not terribly uncommon to see exhaust valve guide issues pop up. Not to say it's so widespread, but when you see a sharp increase in nickel and it's a Continental, you need to be moving on to, okay, are we looking at any symptoms on their end? Are they noticing rough starts, hesitation, where temps at? So you want to start being attentive to other indicators of that problem. So that's what we pointed out in the comment. And sure enough, the customer relayed back some very interesting information, noting that they are experiencing rough starts, especially the hot starts they mentioned, where when you have to crank a lot with wide open throttle and reduce power immediately after the engine is alive. And they mentioned that this was happening quite often, and they were noticing high temps. So here's an instance where we were able to identify this problem before, because you can see that there's a high nickel, there's some extra aluminum as well, but everything else is still looking pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. Their iron level went up a little bit compared to the previous report. I mean, it's still not excessive or anything. Other than that aluminum and nickel, things are still looking pretty good.
Yeah, because when you see a serious exhaust valve guide issue, it's just not uncommon to then you'll have a lot of chrome, a lot of iron. Those can be from the same places too. In this case, yeah, you do see a little bit more iron, but nothing that looks scary, really.
Yeah.
And it's a point where, with a borescope, you should be able to check the valves, look for any burned valves, and address the situation from there. Whereas if this would have gone on longer, chances are good you're going to start seeing a lot more metal from other places in the engine, and might even get to the point where you're seeing the visible stuff in the filter as well. So we're able to catch this far, far earlier than that and bring it to the customer's attention, and they're proceeding, with inspections currently, and then we'll get back with them. But it's good to be able to have familiarity with these issues, point them out, and help people get on their way with their maintenance.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And that brings this episode to a close. We had a lot of fun talking about unit IDs we love, as well as adding on another On the Money segment. Ben, why don't you tell folks what they should do now?
Well, first thing they should do is, if this is your first episode, go ahead and hit that follow button on whatever platform you use to listen to podcasts. A rating would always help us, or help us drive us up the charts. 5 stars on iTunes is always appreciated. And leave a little comment there. It doesn't matter so much what you say. Just rate and review. We'd appreciate it.
And you can do all of this while wearing your very own Slick Talk gear. Available on Blackstone-Labs.com under Slick Talk swag, hats, shirts. You can also find more information about our tests, what we do, the whole shebang. This is your host, Blackstone Joe, signing off.
And your temporary co-host, Ben, also signing off.
Thanks for listening.